Oh wow, first name of Tuvim ben Rezel, first name of Karev Mamish.
Michael Eliezer.
And Michael Eliyahu ben Sarah. Okay, so today's Amud Bruchim Bam, welcome everyone. Today's Amud is Brachas Daf Chof Amud Aleph. We're halfway down, right in the middle. Says the gemorah, Rav Gidl Havaragel. Rav Gidl was used to Havaragel to have it Ka'azil v'Yosef Ashar Tefillah. Not recommended nowadays. He used to sit on the door, the gate, the shower of the mikveh, where women went to be taivel, where they immerse themselves. So Amaluhu, they said to him, Hachi, Amaluhu, he used to say to the women, Hachi tvilu, Hachi tvilu, this is how you should do it, that's how you should do it. In other words, it's complicated to make sure water gets in all the right places. He used to tell them how to be taivel. And they said to him, you're not worried about your evil inclination. How are you doing this? It's a horror. You're not an angel, you're a human being. Why are you not worried? He said to them, Damyan ba'apoi kikaki chivri. They appear to me like white geese. In other words, it's like a person sees geese in the streets, he's aroused by it. No, for him it's the same thing. Interesting gemorah, not recommended. The holy Reb Chaim, he was the leading sage of the time. He was a very, very old man. He reached a very, very old age. We don't know how old he was when this happened, but he used to sit outside the mikvah. This was outside the mikvah, l'chayra. Why? Omar, he said, Kisal kan b'nai Yisrael, when the girls come out of the mikvah, when the women come out from the mikvah, va'asim atfila mistaklim bi, they'll see me. And they have beautiful offspring like me. So it's known that the Reb Chaim was Shufred Reb Chaim came Shufred the Yaakov. His beauty was astounding. He had this crazy beautiful beauty. He was the most beautiful person. So he wanted, in order that the women, the children that are conceived should be beautiful, that women should look at him, and that's going to create in their mind some type of impression, and that is going to be transferred to the children.
Appreciate that his Yetzer Hara was not overly active, but what about the fact that we decided that tznius of the women?
So he was obviously his old rabbi. The place we're going to ask, how come you're not worried that the gemorah doesn't ask? They didn't ask him, what about your Yetzer Hara, right? They didn't say, what about Yetzer Hara? So it appears that first of all, you're asking a totally separate question. What about the women? I guess he had a beauty, but it wasn't a beauty that was arousing for women. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, they're going to have a Yetzer Hara. But there was something. He's an old rabbi with a long white beard. There was something spiritual beauty, maybe. It was some type of, But it's a good question. You're asking a valid question. I didn't see anyone even discussing. Now, I think the pashtus is that. Yeah, the question on him, on Rav Gidl, was they're being taivel. Now, there's plenty of reason for a person to be aroused, but he's saying that a guy in his, Streimel and Bekesha, this old beautiful rabbi, it wasn't exactly the tremendous chiddush of the gemorah, which it could be taken, learn from, is that the person's kids have everything to do with what thoughts they had in their mind. Like if someone looks at something ugly, they're going to have ugly children. If someone looks at something, their emotional status will affect the DNA, I guess. It seeps in. So they asked Reb Chaim. Now I don't understand this because so Omer le Rabbanan. So Rabbanan said to Reb Chaim, like Mustafi Ma'am Ein Bisha, you're not worried about Ein Hara? Here you are. You're sitting outside the mikveh. You're this beautiful person. Why? You're doing it because you're beautiful. You want the children to be beautiful. Am Yisrael should be beautiful. But you're not worried about Ein Hara. People will look at you and that evil eye. It's gonna have a bad ashpah on you. It's gonna affect you. You're not worried about Ein Hara. The evil eye. So what happens? So what does he say? Says Reb Chaim back to them, Amalahu ana mizara de Yosef. I am from the offspring of Yosef Atzadik, the Yaakov's son. Yosef Ein Hara wasn't Shailit on Yosef, and I guess on his offspring also. He was above Ein Hara. Why? If you're from the offspring of Yosef Tzaddik, Ein Hara can't affect you. Ben Parat Yosef Ben Parat Alayin. Right? And that he was above the eye. That's how some explain he was above the eye, or Oile meaning that the Mashas of Lashon Moyo, the Ein Hara helps him. It doesn't harm you, it's Oile, it actually assists you. When people are jealous of you, people look at you like, ah. So some of Farshim explain, how does he know it was from the offspring of Yosef HaTzadik? What it means is that all of Klal Yisrael is from the offspring of Tzadik. They bring Psukim, we're all from Zerah Yosef, and therefore Ein Hara doesn't affect any Yid. Nothing to worry about. So the Mefarshim do ask, why were they asking about Ein Hara? Why didn't they ask him like the Asher of Gidel? They asked him for Gidel Ein Hara, you don't worry about Yetzer Hara. Why weren't they asking him about Yetzer Hara? So there's a few explanations. First of all, Rav Gidel was there telling them how to be Taival. He was looking at them. Rabbi Yechon, he wasn't looking at them. He wasn't instructing them. He was sitting there learning. Right? What was he doing? He was sitting there, Googling. He was sitting there learning. He wasn't looking at them. So he had no Yetzer Hara. He was that's where he learned. He sat outside. He didn't have to be in the inside shah. He didn't have to be inside. He was outside. When they left, they saw him on the way home. They saw him sitting there outside learning. Right? It wasn't the shot that he was sitting there looking at them. So that he didn't have a Yetzer Hara. There was no kasha by Yetzer Hara. Many, many, many years. So he lived many, many years. He was a very old man, 200 years old, it says he reached. So at this stage, he was a very, very old man. So they weren't worried about his Yetzer Hara. It wasn't like, wow, what's with this guy's Yetzer Hara? No, he was very old. Nothing to worry about. Others say, do you know why they didn't ask him what about Yetzer Hara? Because he was the chief rabbi. And it wasn't the chavay to ask him what about Yetzer Hara, right? They could ask him about Ein Hara, but they didn't want to. They asked him, but they didn't want to ask him about how come he's not. That's not my pshat. I would never say it. That's a Ben Yod that says that's why they didn't ask him about his Yetzer Hara. Others say because there's a gemorah later on that says Rabbi Yechanan's eyelashes went over his eyes, so therefore he couldn't see them. But some say it doesn't make sense because he's going there because of his beauty. But if an ikka of beauty of a person's in their eyes, so if they couldn't see his eyes, if he couldn't see them, so they couldn't see his eyes, so what was he there for? I don't know. Okay. So anyway, you see that the beauty was some type of, according to some Mefarshim, the beauty was in his eyes. That was the beauty that was like astounding. Okay. Interesting sugya. Rabbi Yossi bar, where are we? How do we know that Yosef HaTzadik didn't have Ein Hara? Everyone knows Yosef HaTzadik was the most beautiful person. Psukim, he was the son of Rachel. That says she was Yefei Toyef Emara. Rachel was the most beautiful woman, and her son Yosef was also beautiful. Mefurish Psukim. And Rabbi Yochanan was Me'ein Yosef HaTzadik. So there was astounding beauty. Rabbi Yosef says, how do we know that there's no Ein Hara? Because that we should be like fish, they should spread, they should multiply like fish in the ocean. Or B'karav Haaretz on the land. They ask, why did it say B'karav Haaretz? Of course it's B'karav Haaretz. What do you mean, in Shemayim? So Mat Dogim Shebiyam, just like the fish in the sea, Mayin Mechasim Aleim, the water covers them, Ve'ein Ein Hara Shaleta Behem, and therefore there's no Ein Hara. Av Zar Shel Yosef Ein Hara Shaleta Behem. Similarly, Yosef's offspring, Ein Hara can't be shalit on them. Just like fish are surrounded by water. So some explain it to mean you can't see the fish. Fish are in the water, there's refraction, retraction, I don't know what. You look at the water, you don't see the fish, they're right there. But the sunlight reflects and you can't see the fish. Similarly, the Ein Hara, the ayin doesn't, so to speak, hit the person. The eye doesn't hit the guy, bounces off. You can't see people. Others say, no, but it's different because you can sometimes see fish. You get the right angle, you see the fish. Right? And here we're talking about a guy who's visible. Substrate, you don't see the tzaddik, you don't see the person. You see him, but still it doesn't work. In other words, so what are you learning from fish? That the water acts as a mechitza. It's a boundary. You see the fish, but the water gets absorbed. It gets the light becomes dissipated. I don't know what. The water acts as a mechitza. Similarly, when a person's zer yesef, person can see him, but it gets absorbed by other things. And that's why, for example, you're not supposed to count, you're not allowed to count people, right? Why? Because of Ein Hara. But if you count the money, if each person gives a machatzis shekel, then you count the money because it gets absorbed into the shekel. You still know exactly how many people there are, but so to speak, there's a middle, there's something in the middle. That's the difference between the two pshatim. Is it, you still know, you still can see, but there's some type of absorption that stops the Ein Hara going through. Says the gemorah. V'bay seima. There's a third pshat. How come Yosef HaTzadik didn't have Ein Hara? V'bay seima. Ein shloi rotzah lozim memeh mimash she'ein shalai ein Ein Hara shalai tisbay. Yosef HaTzadik didn't want to feast his eyes on Ashes Potiphar. She was also supposed to be this beautiful woman. He didn't look at her. He didn't enjoy her, right? So if you don't enjoy what's wrong with you with your eyes, if you could control your eyes, so someone else's eyes can't harm you. So this is already something you can learn from. This is already something that, okay, you don't want Ein Hara to bother you, so don't be busy looking at other people. In other words, if you're not busy looking at other people and trying to enjoy what's not yours, right, so then when they look at you, it's not going to harm you either. It goes both ways. It's like midah keneged midah. Take a look, Mishnah. The Ritva, by the way, says that this whole story here about going to the mikvah and not worrying about people seeing them, Ritva says a lot of the things that Chazal say, that it's also to look at a woman, it's also to look at the colorful clothes of a woman when you're davening. It's all, you see from this gemorah, it's all tali b'mashu adam, somewhere that it's not going to affect them b'chalal, it's going to be mutar. And it could be, therefore, a lot of the gezeres was also Bezman Chazal, not to walk behind the woman. Nowadays, there's women everywhere. It doesn't affect anyone because women in the street everywhere. So it could be, you could be makel based on that principle that times have changed. Says the Mishnah, bottom line, Nashim v'avadim v'ktanim p'turim kriyishma. Okay, women, children, avodim, they don't have to say Kriya Shema. Why? Potum Kriya Shema on the page, Uminat Tfilah, and then I have to pray. Uminat Tfilin, and we have to wear Tfilin, sorry. V'chayavim b'tfilah, but they have to pray. Uba mezuzah, they have to have a mezuzah. Uba birkas hamazon, they have to bench. So, turn back the page. Let's take a look in Rashi. Fundamental principles. Take a look in Rashi. Rashi says, Nashim avodim k'tanim p'turim Kriya Shema. Why? She mitzvah say shazman groma. Why do women not have to say Kriya Shema? Because it's a mitzvah with a specific time, morning, evening, and any mitzvah say shazman groma, women don't have to do it. They're busy, they've got to take care of their house, they've got to take care of the children. Torah says, or it's just exeris kosov, women don't have to do any mitzvah say shazman groma. In other words, any positive commandment that is there's time constraint, they don't have to do. Says Rashi, "V'tfilin nami mitzvah seishuzman groma." Tfilin is also time constrained. Why? Because the author of this Mishnah holds the Savar Laila v'Shabbos Lazman Tfilin inu. He holds that tfilin is not time constrained because you don't wear tfilin at night and you don't wear tfilin on Shabbos. Therefore, it is Toli and Zman. Since it's Tali and Zman only during the day, weekday, therefore women don't have to do it. It happens to be the machlekes. It's interesting. Why does Rashi Bechlal bring this? Why does Rashi say that at night you don't wear tefillin? Halacha l'maisa, we hold. The Rabbi Kiva in the Mishnah says you do wear tefillin at night. Midoraisa, biblically. We don't wear it now at night because we're worried you fall asleep, and you fall asleep. They will geyser. You won't have a guftar, right? We're worried the person will let out gas, we're worried the person will do all sorts of things. So you don't wear tefillin at night, you can't sleep with your tefillin on. So why does Rashi bring the fact that you don't wear tefillin at night? Just say Shabbos. The fact is we don't wear tefillin on Shabbos. Why doesn't Rashi just bring halacha l'maisa that you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos? That's why it's not mitzvah shazman grama. We don't wear tefillin on Shabbos because you only have 2 isim, you don't need 3 ice. Tefillin's the ice, Shabbos the ice. So it's a bit of a kasha in Rashi. Why does he bring Bechlal this thing that you don't wear tefillin at night? It's a kasha. I didn't see any answers. Ktanim, says Rashi. Af kota shegia lechinuch lo yitilo alav v'lechancha b'kriyas shema. So it's a bit of a machlekes which type of cotton we're talking about here. The Mishnah says a cotton doesn't have to say Kriya Shema, right? And tefillin. So Rashi says we're talking about a cotton shegia lechinuch. He's already 9, 10, 11 years old. You got to be mechanech him. The guy's got to keep kol Torah kula. Little kids walking around, they're not, eating trays. You got to tell them what to do. So he's a gil chinuch, but still, lo yitilu alav v'lechancha b'kriyas shema. His father doesn't have to. He's not obligated to say with him every morning kriyas shema. Why? Guess what? The tat is not home. He goes to work. The kid sleeps late. You're going to ruin the whole schedule. So Chazal said you don't have to say Kriya Shema with your kid when he's 9 years old. Otherwise, for the next 4 or 5 years, it ain't going to be pretty. It's rough. I have a hard time getting my 20-year-old out of bed in the morning to say Kriya Shema, right, on time. So this guy is poor guy, right? This is before there's alarm clocks, obviously. Even though there are other ways of making old-fashioned alarm clocks. You put nails and wax candles and they fall, and it's after 12 hours it'll wake you up. Apparently, that's how they used to do it. So Chazal didn't say you have to make kids say Kriya Shema every day. If you have to say Kriya Shema, then every day you've got to get up. Make sure he's up like his one Kriya Shema. Maybe Chazal thought it's more important that this kid gets his shadai. He needs his sleep. Take a look at Taisvis. Taisvis doesn't like it. Bottom Taisvis. V'ktanim p'torim Kriya Shema. This is a fundamental Taisvis. That's why we're going to see it. Pirish b'kuntras kotesh shigil lechinuch. Rashi says we're talking about a cotton that's big, a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. He doesn't have to say Kriya Shema. V'lei nira. I don't like it. Why? Because he brings another gemorah. We won't see it inside. The gemorah says that a cotton who knows how to watch his tefillin, a cotton knows how to be careful with his tefillin, he's got to wear tefillin. So what's the difference? Why should he have to wear tefillin, not say Kriya Shema? You see that cotton has to watch his tefillin. It's a gemorah in sukkah. If a cotton can watch his tefillin, you make him have tefillin. So Taisa says, tam 3 lines down, the which cotton is the Mishnah saying spotted from Kriya Shema? A cotton that isn't 9 years old, a cotton that's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he doesn't have to say Kriya Shema. But once he's 9, he has to say Kriya Shema. Again, according to Rashi, a cotton doesn't say Kriya Shema till he's bar mitzvah, till he's 13. According to Taisus, according to Rabbeinu Tam, he's got to say Kriya Shema. He's got. So which cotton is spotted in the Mishnah? Shalei Gilachinech is talking about a cotton, a small cotton, a 6-year-old kid. What's Rashi going to do with the Gemara and Sukkah? The Reb Chaim will want to know. How's Rashi understand the Gemara and Sukkah? The Gemara and Sukkah says a cotton, once he knows that to be Shemes tefillin, he should wear tefillin. So some say it means he's Shemes tefillin, once he's got to prepare before his bar mitzvah, you've got to teach him, once he can be Shemes tefillin, means when he's 12 years old. When he's 12 years old, then no one is 9, you don't buy a 9-year-old tefillin. But when he's 12, you make it, when he's almost a gadol, he knows how to be Shemes tefillin. He's not a gadol mamish, but he's almost a gadol, he's 12, wear tefillin. Others say it means, the Mishnah and Sukkah means you buy him tefillin, just so you should become ruggle you teach him how to do it, a herigol. It's not that he's chayv to wear tefillin every day, like he's chayv to do all mitzvahs every day. But you have to teach him, you have to be margling to wear tefillin once in a while. You put tefillin on him, gets used to it, so that when his bar mitzvah comes, he knows how to put it. It's complicated. You see people putting on tefillin the wrong way all the time. Most people don't know how to put tefillin on, unfortunately, unless you learned it. So it's got to be above the hairline, it's got to be in the right place on the arm. So you got to teach this kid, you got to teach this cotton how to put tefillin on. That's how they understand Rashi and Sukkah. Okay, turn the page. Now, let's see the next Rashi. It's also fundamental.
Great question. Putter. They don't have to. But what if they do? Can they if they want to?
So l'chayra they can. L'chayra they can. If you do a mitzvah but you putter, you call the head yet. But that's if you think you're doing a mitzvah. Maybe for a cotton, it's good to be margul b'mitzvahs. He should do it. With tefillin, it's different because the reason why you potter is because you got to have a guf noki. You have to have a clean body. So maybe it's better not to. A kid doesn't know how to be shame himself, but if he can, so the Gemara and Sukkah seems to be saying but if he knows how to be shame, he should wear tefillin. That's the Gemara and Sukkah. We're not knowing. There's different minhagim. You make kids, you buy them tefillin 3 months before the bar mitzvah. I think that's the normal thing, 3 months before. But they certainly wear tefillin before the bar mitzvah. And that's a Gemara and Sukkah. The Gemara and Sukkah says, You have to margle him. So says gemorah, uminat tefillin. Take a look in Rashi. He's potter from tefillin. Why? Why is the cotton potter from tefillin? Mishum the stam cotton any lishma gufay shlayafich ben. A cotton doesn't know how to watch his body not to pass gas when he's wearing tefillin, and it's zilzal in tefillin. So therefore, a cotton doesn't wear tefillin. In other words, he could wear tefillin. He could be mekayim the mitzvah, the machshavos you need when you wear tefillin to say the bracha, to pray. What's wrong? A cotton could do that. 12-year-old kid could do that. He can run a business. He can't wear tefillin. He can, but he doesn't know how to watch his body. I guess it's harder for him, maybe, even if you teach him. Says Rashi, v'chayavim b'tefillah. He has to pray, right? K'tarim have to daven. Women, k'tarim, avodim have to daven. Why? This is interesting. Rashi says the tefillah rachmi. Tefillin is compassion. Everyone needs compassion from Hashem. Everyone needs rachmanis from Hashem. So they need also compassion. Women, avodim, k'tarim, they also need rachmanis. So that's why they have to daven. And Rashi says another thing. Oh, midrabanan he. And guess what? Rashi says tefillin is darabanan. Tefillin is not daraisa. Tefillin is darabanan. It's rabbinical, and therefore they have to pray. The implication is that the Torah of mitzvah seishas mangroma is only for daraisa. If something is biblical and it's time constrained, they're potter. But if it's rabbanon and it's time constrained, they're chayiv. Otherwise, what's Rashi saying? Durachamihi, umin rabbanon is rabbanon, and therefore they have to pray. And Rashi says, "V'tiknu af l'noshim lechanech k'tanim." Chazal were misaken for women, for children. There's a takana. Take a look at Taisus. Taisus says, we'll see Taisus later in the gemorah. Actually, Taisus is going on the gemorah. We'll see it inside. What about
how we hold?
That what? Which thing?
Rabbinical.
It's a big machlekes. Is it the Daraisa Rabbanan? Machlekes Ramban, Rashi. Massive machlekes. Is it the Daraisa Rabbanan? Kunta, in a nutshell, the Rambam holds is Daraisa. Maimonides, Daraisa. Ramban holds is Darabanan. So what is Tefillah Daraisa according to Ramban? According to Ramban, anytime you have a tzara, anytime something's bothering you, you need help from Hashem, you mechuyev b'Daraisa to pray. That according to Ramban is the chiv Daraisa to pray. When you need to pray, you have a tzara. You need to find a parking space. You mechuyev b'Daraisa to pray according to Ramban. According to Rambam, it's 3 times a day you have to pray, or twice a day, whatever. It's every day you have to pray. But it's not telling you whether you need something. Okay, so take a look at the Gemara. It says the Gemara, Krishma. The Mishnah said Krishma, they're potter from Krishma. Krishma, Pshita. Of course they're potter from Krishma. Mitzvah Sheshman Gramahu. Everybody knows that women are potter from Mitzvah Sheshman Grama, so women are potter from Krishma. It's pshita. What's the chiddush of the Mishnah? It's obvious. Answers the Gemara. Ma'al de tema. I might think hayil v'isbu malchus shemayim. Since when you say Krishma, you're accepting on yourself the yoke of heaven, and it's important to do that even for women, children, avodim. Therefore, they should say it also. Kumash malan. No, don't say it. That was the Havamin. The Havamin is not because it's not a mitzvah sheshman grama. The Havamin of the Gemara is that since it's so important to be makabel, all malchus shemayim, to accept the yoke of heaven, everyone needs to do that. Women, children, avodim, everyone has to do that. Kumash malan, no, they don't have to. Says the Gemara, uminat tefillin, they don't have to wear tefillin. Why? Pshita. It's pashut. You might think, since there's a hekesh tefillin to mezuzah, right? Right? You say it in Krishma. So you might think there's a hekesh to mezuzah, and since mezuzah the chayvin, you might think therefore the chayvin tefillin also. Kumash malah, no, there's no hekesh. So the potter from tefillin. The question is, the Rashba takes out this word pshita. Why? Because there are shittas out there that tefillin, you do have to wear tefillin at night. You do have to wear tefillin on Shabbos. And therefore, it's not according to everyone that tefillin is a mitzvah seishas man grama. There are shittas out there that tefillin is a mitzvah shelayas man grama. And therefore, he says, there are gears that took out the word pshita here. It's not pshita, but you might think what the chiddush of the Mishnah is. You might think that it's hikush lebezuzah. No, it's not hikush lebezuzah. Okay, says the Gemara. V'chayovin betfila. They are chayav to pray. Why? Says the gemorah, the rachmininu, because it's compassion. Now, ma'udatema, you might think, since there's a pasuk that says erev abaykev etzorayim, you have to pray morning, evening, and night, implying that there's 3 separate mitzvahs. It's like a time-constrained mitzvah, even though you can pray the whole day, but there's a morning prayer, there's an afternoon prayer, there's evening prayer. Kamash malan, no. Kamash malan, that it's not time-constrained, it's mitzvah she'eina zman grama, and therefore they should pray. Take a look at Taisus, the top Taisus, b'tfilah. Now Taisus adds a word, pshita. It's pashut that they have to pray. Of course they have to pray. If you look at our gemorah doesn't say pshita. Rashi wasn't gairis pshita over here. It's not pashut at all. So, says Taisus, v'rashi loy garis lei. Third line in Taisus, Rashi wasn't gairis pshita. Why? Shari tefillah d'Rabbanan. According to Rashi, tefillah is d'Rabbanan. Tefillah is rabbinical. Umay mitzvah sheshaycha ba. And therefore, since it's rabbinical, it's not considered a mitzvah say. It's not a positive commandment. It's a rabbinical commandment. So the whole principle of mitzvah say shezman grama according to Rashi doesn't apply to tefillah. Taisus understands Rashi that any mitzvah d'Rabbanan, we don't care if it's zman grama or not zman grama. That's how Taisus understands Rashi. That's what Rashi's saying. Prayer is d'Rabbanan, and therefore, of course you don't have to pray. Of course I have to, sorry. Says Taisus, you can answer very simply. The hal d'Rabbanan v'noshim p'tureis, according to Taisus, also with rabbinical mitzvahs, with rabbanans, we also say it's dependent on Zman Grama, not Zman Grama. Women, halal, you say once a month, it's Zman Grama, women are potter. So any mitzvah that's Zman Grama, women are potter also, even if it's the Rabbanan. I don't care if it's the rice of the Rabbanan. Rashi sees he's saying the nafkamina if it's the rice of the Rabbanan. Taisa says no nafkamina. So massive fundamental machlekes in Rashi and Taisus. The Rebbeinu Yoino, Rambam, Rif, they all say that tefillah is lav zman grama. Tefillah is not zman grama. Tefillah is all day. There's no zman on tefillah. Tefillah is all day, and therefore women are chayav. It's all day. That's l'chayr where they hold, right? It's not zman grama, and therefore the Gemara says pshita that they're chayav. You might think, even though since it's Erev HaBoikev Etzrayim, you might think that it's totally a little bit in time, so therefore they'd be chayiv. Therefore they'd be potter. So, the Maisa, the Maskana, it goes like this. If you hold that tefillah is doraisa, Rashi doesn't hold as doraisa, but according to Rambam, the tefillah is doraisa. Midoraisa, you could daven all day. The Rabbanan are the ones that put a time constraint on it. Rabbanan said you got to 3 hours, you got till chatzais, you got till the night time. The Torah just says you got to daven every day. So midoraisa, it's not zman grama. Only if you hold it as the Rabbanan, like Rashi, then it's zman grama. Because according to Rashi, it's only the Rabbanan, and with the Rabbanan there's times, so the whole mitzvah is time constrained. But if you hold it as doraisa, like the Rambam, he holds it's lav zman grama. Why? Because he holds tefillah as doraisa. Because it's doraisa, it's not zman grama. Doraisa, there's no time constraint on the zman. It's fascinating, no? So it's totally if tefillah is doraisa Rabbanan, if it's zman grama or not. Either way, women aren't chayiv, either because it's the Rabbanan, and ba'afal pichein says the gemorah the potter, because it's rachami, or so how the Rishonim going to learn? How's the Rambam going to learn? It's lav zman grama, it's chayiv all day. So why? So therefore women have to daven. Sorry, therefore women have to daven because it's lav zman grama. It's doraisa. According to Rashi, it's the Rabbanan, And Chazal were geyser, that they have to daven also. They also have to daven. They need rachmi. That's why they were geyser. Says the Gemara further. Uba mezuzah. They have to have a mezuzah in the house. Pshita. Of course they have to have a mezuzah. Why not? No. Since mezuzah, there's hekesh Talmud Torah, so you might think they don't have to have a mezuzah. Kamash Malan, they have to have a mezuzah. Since they're pot in Talmud Torah, why they pot in Talmud Torah? Because it says, Vishananta levanecha, v'loi livneisecha. You have to teach your sons. Of course they can learn Torah, they get a schafa learn Torah, but there's no chiyuv. Therefore you might think that they're potter also in mezuzah. Kamash Malan nechayv in mezuzah, there's no hekesh. Ubebrichas hamazon, they have to bench. If they eat, they have to bench afterwards. Pshita, of course they have to bench. No maitem hoivachsiv b'seis Hashem lachem be'erev bas alecho v'lechem b'boiker l'seiva. Hashem gives you bread in the morning to eat and at night to eat. So you might think there's a time you bench in the morning. There's 2 meals. They used to have 2 meals a day. It's all over Chazal. They used to have 2 meals a day. They didn't used to have 3 meals a day. It was 2 meals. Society was a 2 meal society. So I think there's morning and evening. And therefore, it's benching is Tali and Zman. So you might think Tali and Zman. Says the gemorah, it's as if it's mitzvah. You might think the benching is Tali and Zman. Kamash Malan, it's not Tali and Zman. It's Tali when you eat. Whenever you eat, you got a bench. If you eat in the middle of the night, you got a bench. So you might think it's Tali and Zman. Kamash Malan, that's not called Tali and Zman. It's getting late, and then we're going to have to wrap it up over here. Yeah, okay, we'll call it a day. We have to end over here. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.